Coming away on Philadelphia Eagles Now by Chat Sports, I'm your host, Jay Senior. Going to take all of the questions from the Bird Gang, but first, kickoff is almost here. Sunday, the start of the 2022 season for the Philadelphia Eagles. So if you're stoked and excited for it, I want you to hit that thumbs up icon and like the video. We begin this mailbag with this question coming in from the homie Joey E. Is there a realistic scenario that we can still trade for Jessie Bates? I'd say with Howie Roseman as the general manager for this football team, anything is possible because he's one of the more aggressive and active general managers in the sport. Now, when it comes down to financials, he is playing under the franchise tag, so he is pretty expensive. And right now, the Eagles among those teams who have some of the least cap space. So there would have to be some type of a financial move to take place to trade for Jessie Bates. But I'll tell you this, I don't think it happens, but Jessie Bates, C.J. Gardner-Johnson on the back end with this linebacking core, Darius Slade, James Bradbury, and this offensive line, that's a good Eagles defense right there as long as Jonathan Gannon doesn't choke. Next one coming in from Sammy Sanchez. If Hurts plays well, what position, defensive end, safety, etc., do you think the Eagles should draft in the first round, and do you like any particular players coming out of next year's draft? It's a good question. I think defensive line is where the Eagles will go. I always think that ideally they prioritize if they don't have an area of need elsewhere. Historically, going back to Joe Banner, nowadays with Howie Roseman, they love their offensive linemen, especially tackles, but they're probably set with Lane Johnson, Jeremiah Lotta, barring injury. Defensive end, though, is really where the Eagles are somewhat lacking when you project into the future. Derek Barnett is what he is at this point. I think he's a second-string defensive end who can get some pretty quality quarterback pressures and quarterback hits. He's not going to be that big sack guy, and he'll never live up to the expectations of being that first-round pick. Brandon Graham is entering year 13, coming off a torn Achilles. He said he wants to play a couple more years, and he feels great. And I want to see him end his career in midnight green. But you have to start planning for the future, and you have to start compiling your team to win right now, but also construct it to win in the future. And that's where some of those priority positions come into play. Safety, yes, but I'm not taking a safety early in the draft. I'll probably go late in that first round. At the earliest, you can get some really good second-round safeties. But defensive end, that's the position that I'm honing in on. As for guys that I'm really looking at, I mean, Will Anderson is like the best defensive player in the draft out of Alabama. Other edge rushers, though, I got to look at more college football, and then we'll check back in a couple of months to see who rises up. LA, what's good, brother? Where do you rank our receiving core against the rest of the league? It's pretty damn good. Now, the wide receiver position has become as deep as ever and as talented as ever. And I think that's why a lot of teams in the NFL are electing to trade away a Tyreek Hill, trade away a Devontae Adams, because of course those players are special and they can change the complexion of a game. But at the same time, you're paying both of those guys in the neighborhood of $30 million on an average annual value basis. If you can find a wide receiver, first or second round, like a Jamar Chase, like a Justin Jefferson, you are paying them on their rookie contracts 3 to 4 years a fraction of the price of what you're paying for a Tyreek Hill, Devontae Adams, and you're getting just as much, if not more production. And year in, year out, not only are you finding really good wide receivers at excellent value in the first round, you can get really good cats in the second and third rounds as well. So I think that's a little bit of a change of philosophy in terms of front offices. As for the Eagles receiving core, A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, Quez Watkins is underrated. I think he's actually going to get paid potentially. And then Zach Pascal. What I'm concerned about is that the Eagles really only have 4 wide receivers on the 53. On the opening day roster, are they going to run a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight end sets with only 4 active wide receivers? Somewhat of a concern. Zach Pascal as your 4 is great because I think he's a really solid player who has familiarity with Nick Sirianni's offense. I'd say that the Eagles are like on the cusp of being a top 10 receiving core in the NFL, but there are so many good ones to choose from. Sports fan Mark, is it disrespectful the Eagles are only 4-point favorites against the Lions? No, I don't think so. In fact, I'm not sure I'm touching this game. I think the Eagles win by 4, maybe a field goal. I think this game is actually going to be pretty close. And I think that 4-point line is indicative of Vegas and the odds makers thinking that this Lions team is actually pretty good. And Trace, can we pull up that quote graphic of the chat stats if possible? Because a lot of upsets happen week 1. And this has been a trend that's actually been growing over the last couple of years. And then, Trace, you can go to that player card L3 as well for the Lions. 2021, NFL underdogs won 37% of games straight up, highest rate since 2015. Week 1 of last year, historic for underdogs, 12 covers, the most by week 1 dogs in the Super Bowl era, 9 outright wins, tied for the most over during that stretch, and then 10 home dogs this week, and the Lions are one of them. And it would not actually surprise me if the Lions upset the Birds. Last year, 2-6 in one-score games, 1-4 in games decided by a field goal or less. So that shows you that the Lions were in a lot of games last year. They only won 3, but they were at least competitive. And I think this game is going to be really competitive as well, especially considering you don't have tape on these teams because it is week 1. Speaking of this game on Sunday, who do you think is going to be the standout star? The player who rises up and gets the quote-unquote game ball from head coach Nick Sirianni? Let me know right now in the comment section. Your boy Crazy Colin, do you honestly think that Hurts has the potential to be that guy yet for us, or do you think we trade for someone like Bryce Young? Now, Howie Roseman has certainly planned for the future. He has compiled a lot of draft assets where if Jalen Hurts doesn't play well this year, then he can put those assets together to move up in the draft. But I think that Bryce Young is probably going to go number 1 overall. At least he's my favorite quarterback in this class ahead of C.J. Stroud. A lot of people like to knock Bryce Young for his size, and he is a little bit thin. But I think Bryce Young is a better quarterback, throws with anticipation, throws with accuracy and touch, and you can't really teach those things. And nowadays, quarterbacks are protected more than they've ever been. So I think drafting Bryce Young might be hard, but can you go after a Will Levis maybe in the middle of the first round? I do think that Jalen Hurts has that potential. I think that Hurts is kind of like a mini Lamar Jackson light for a fantasy play. He's fantastic because even during a bad game, he's going to run and he's going to throw and he's going to combine for like 2 to 4, 5 combined rushing and passing touchdowns. Has to take that next step as a passer. I mean, 61% completion percentage last year, not great. But does the acquisition and addition of A.J. Brown help him? I hope so, because the pieces are certainly there for him to have a big year. And if he does, he'll get the bag. Ozzy, what game are you most excited for, Chase? A lot of good ones on the schedule. The NFC East games are always great against the Cowboys and against the Giants. Going up against Carson Wentz, that's going to be a lot of fun. The non-NFC East matchups, you know, it's kind of hard to determine. Green Bay Packers at home, that's going to be a really good litmus test. That's about 3/4 through the season. So I would say that because you always want to measure yourself up against some of the best opponents. Well, I think he's talking Eagles, not just NFL. This upcoming week, yeah, Browns-Panthers, as producer Trey said, it's going to be a pretty good game. Trey Lance against Justin Fields. I mean, how about Bucks-Cowboys? And then tonight, Thursday night, as we record this, I mean, Rams-Bills. It's one of the better Week 1 games. Eagles-Saints with CD Deuce, C.J. Gardner-Johnson, another good one. So, Ozzy, we're giving you options because, like Sam Hinkie, we like optionality. Now, Eagles fans, I want you to listen closely. Appreciate all of you for supporting the show. And we want to give back to some of our loyal subscribers. Do you want a free Philadelphia Eagles jersey? Here's how it happens. If you head to chatsports.com/EaglesBet, that's our sportsbook partner, BetUS, and you enter the promo code Eagles125, you sign up and deposit at least $100, you get a 125% deposit back. What that means is you turn $100 into $225 to game with. Then all you have to do is make a bet of any kind, any variety. And then email us that you followed all those steps, jersey@chatsports.com. And we will send you a free Philadelphia Eagles jersey. That's the information if you want to screenshot it. Here's more information further. It's chatsports.com/EaglesBet. Promo code Eagles125. Couple of jerseys that we can guarantee you. Men, women, kids jerseys, and then, of course, the midnight green, the white jerseys, as well as the black jerseys. Jalen Hurts available, Jason Kelce, A.J. Brown also available, and the Slim Reaper, DeVonta Smith. A couple of older players, but we can't always make a promise depending on the availability of those guys because they're not currently playing for the squad. But either way, free jersey, thanks to our friends at Fanatics from BetUS. You see it's the Nike jersey right there. Jersey@chatsports.com. Email us. Let us know that you followed all those steps. Dan Rudolph. Who is your favorite Eagle? Oh, it's Brian Dawkins. It's no doubt Brian Dawkins. Brian Dawkins is my favorite Philadelphia Eagle. In fact, I have a Brian Dawkins little figurine type thing on my desk. I'm going to ask somebody to bring it in. Anyway, Chase McGuire, we'll go to his question. Dan Rudolph, I got something for you. You want to get that, Trace? Yeah, Trace will go get it. Let's answer this question from Chase McGuire. What is your biggest concern about the Eagles? I think it comes down to Jalen Hurts. Is he going to take that next step as a passer? And if he doesn't, what's going to happen at the quarterback position? Are people going to be crying for Gardner Minshew? We know that this organization does have a long history of some great backups. Thanks, man. Coy Detmer back in the day, A.J. Feely, Jeff Garcia, Michael Vick. So Nick Foles, obviously the most legendary of them all. There's been a lot of good backup quarterbacks who have provided this team with a lot of great moments. Gardner Minshew, I think, is good for a couple of games. I'm not sure he's a long, sustained starter. So I'd go quarterback and then safety as well. C.J. Gardner-Johnson hasn't played there a lot. And then, you go to Marcus Epps. He's still really, really unproven. So safety and quarterback for me. Outside of that, I think this Eagles team pretty deep. And then the fact that they really only have 4 wide receivers, a little bit of a concern. Let's go back to Dan Rudolph here. B-Doc, man. You asked who my favorite Eagle was? I have this on my desk because Brian Dawkins epitomized what it's like and what all players should aspire to be as a Philadelphia Eagle. And then he attacked the game and life the way that everybody should. Fearless, with some swagger, with some confidence, and with a lot of passion. So Brian Dawkins, my favorite Eagle. He's actually my screensaver as well. There you go. Brian Dawkins, all-time Eagle. I live and die with 20, man. If you're subscribed to Philadelphia Eagles now, appreciate all of your support. The goal for us, 50,000 subscribers by the end of the year. Help us get there. If you're subscribed, type real one. If you're not subscribed, you ain't alive. Hit that red sub button and then type real one roll call. Let's ride. Ryan Rowe, do you see the wide receivers slot paying more production and more competition to playing both special teams, punt returners, and first team reps? I'm not sure what you're trying to say here, Ryan. Let me try to simplify this. Do you see the wide receivers playing more production or competition to playing both on special teams, punt returners? I'm not, Trace, do you know what he's trying to ask? I'm trying to decipher it here. Do I see wide receivers playing special teams? Potentially. Now with Jalen Reagor traded, I'm not sure what's going to happen with punt and kick returner. Boston Scott will probably be that guy. I'm not sure if there's a wide receiver on the roster, though, who's going to play special teams. Hopefully I answered your question there. $2 Super Chat coming in from Alexander. Thank you so much for your donation. It allows us to grow our staff here at Chat Sports. When I started here March 1 of last year, I was the 8th employee. Now we just made 3 more hires, and we have 20 employees. So your Super Chats do go a long way. Also, if you're a member of the military now or you were, appreciate your service. I see the profile picture right there. I did that and never heard back reading the jerseys. Well, we just trotted out this jersey deal, so we will get back to you. You send us that email, jersey@chatsports.com, and we will get back to you. We're not going to get back to you right away because we want to wait for a lot of emails to come in, but we will get back to you eventually. I do promise you that, so keep an eye out for that. Elijah coming in with this one, 2004 Eagles versus 2018 Eagles. Who is the better team top down? Well, it's the 2017 Eagles. They won the Super Bowl in the 2018 calendar year. Man, that's really tough. I mean, the defense was better in 2004. That defense was loaded. Javon Curse, Jeremiah Trotter, Brian Dawkins, obviously. I mean, their corners were really good. You still had Troy Vincent, Lito Shepherd. The offense was pretty legit with T.O., Brian Westbrook, Trey Thomas, John Runyon. So that's a really tough question. Chad Lewis missed the Super Bowl after he got hurt in the NFC Championship game. It's tough, man. I mean, different eras of football, too. I'd probably go 2004 because can you imagine what Brian Westbrook would be able to do in nowadays NFL? Terrell Owens as well, and Donovan McNabb if he could have just played with those guys for more than 1 year in T.O.'s case. So let me lean 2004, but 2017 team, man, they got it done, and they won that ring, dethroning Tom Brady and Bill Belichick. $10 super chat from DeAdrian. He didn't even say anything, and he just sent us in a donation during our live show. DeAdrian, cheers to you, my bro. You are an absolute real one. Greatly, greatly, greatly appreciate your support. Ozzy, who would you want as a solid fifth wide receiver if we were to drop a player and have a chance at signing one? Honestly, they have some pretty good wide receivers on the practice squad. Deion Kane, Devin Allen. I think Britton Covey is more of a specialist. I don't think he's a wide receiver in this league. I do think he can be a returner, and I think if he occupies a 53-man roster, that's okay. Wide receivers out there, you want to sign Odell Beckham Jr.? It's a pretty damn good name out there who could come to the Eagles for cheap. Ian Benjamin, chances Bradbury gets re-signed. I hope so. I mean, he signed a pretty affordable deal, and if he plays well, I think the Eagles try to bring him back. I mean, he's still somewhat young. Darius Slay, James Bradbury, that's a really good 1-2 punch at that corner spot. Avonte Maddox, he is certainly capable. And I think this Eagles team really just topped the bottom. Of course, some question marks. Jalen Hurts, safety spot, depth pieces at some areas. But, man, this team is really, really stacked, and that's a credit to what Howie Roseman has been able to do. I lied to you. We're actually going to have one more question on the mailbag. Let's pop it up here momentarily. Producer Trace, boom, here we go. ATM, real one, you already know the deal. We really need a solid, healthy running back. See, that's another question mark that this team has. The lack of a power back. So something else to keep an eye out for. Sanders has been so heavily unreliable with his health, which is sad because I love him as a player. Imagine a Saquon and Miles reunion. That sounds good in theory, ATM, and I do appreciate that. Yes, running back a little bit of a concern. Yes, you're right on Miles Sanders. Splash plays, explosive plays, where you're like, holy shit, this guy is special. And then he goes down with those nagging soft tissue injuries. The problem with Saquon Barkley, his base salary is more than $10 million per year. And I think that's way too expensive for a running back. My team philosophy, never pay a running back more than $10 million. And if you do, I think that's awful. That's what the Dallas Cowboys did with Zeke. He's not even the best running back on that roster, type F Dallas. Tony Pollard is the better back. And I think you can just find quality running backs mid to late rounds, undrafted free agents, and then cheap in free agency as well.